Hi, Summer. Walking Wookie around Pine Ledge. And I was talking to Grandma this morning, and I was trying to help her plan her day around the things that are important to her. I've been trying to do that every day since we've been having these meetings during this pandemic shutdown. And one thing I asked her was, what would she do today if she knew it was the last day of her life? And she had some good answers. And she said she would tell me she loved me and give me a hug, which makes sense. I suppose I would do the same thing. But then when I was walking Wookie, she called me and she asked me the same question. What I would do if today was the last day of my life. And so it got me thinking. And I used to ask myself that question a lot. And I think my life's philosophy on a day-to-day basis was largely based around that question. And you hear that question from a lot of directions. At least I did growing up. You know, to live today like it's your last. Live for today, not to think about tomorrow. And there's some wisdom in that. But it can be out of balance. I mean, just in a practical sense. There's all kinds of practical reasons why you need to assume you'll be alive tomorrow. Things like managing your money and your job, things like that, keeping some kind of a schedule or a calendar, you know, which is useful in a lot of ways. But I felt that the personality that I used to have, in a lot of ways, was good. Because I had asked myself that question so much, because I felt like I really had a clarity on what was important from having asked myself that. And a lot of the things that I did in my life that I'm glad I did, you know, especially with the people I love and people I've lost, is because I asked myself that question so seriously. And when I ask myself that today, I find that it's hard to answer. And I think that's because at some point I realized you can be at a far end of that spectrum, and that can be out of balance with the more practical mindset of, you know, planning for the future. But you can go out too far on that end of that perspective. You can go too far to that end of the spectrum as well, too. Planning too much for the future and not living for the moment. And I think I bet people struggle with both. But I miss myself. I miss who I was when I would really, truly try to live today like it could be my last. And I'm surprised that I have such a hard time answering that question, almost as though I'm afraid to, almost as though, you know, I perceive that kind of thinking is not good. It would be dishonest if I didn't share that I have thoughts about that because of religion. Meaning my religious experiences extinguished that part of my identity in ways that I don't think were helpful. As I usually say. But yeah, it did involve a death of my old self. And there was some very good things about my old self. And that was one of them. So now I find myself having this almost impulsive reaction to that question, you know, not wanting to answer it. But I want to be able to think about that. I want to really think through what I would do, try to imagine what I would do. And not necessarily, you know, force myself to act on that. But I miss the wisdom of that. And I miss the clarity you can get from really trying to imagine that, what you would do if today was the last day of your life. And so, you know, some things that come to mind for me, of course, are going to be, you know, hugging the people you love, being with the people you love, having joy with the people you love. Seeing the people around you experience joy and experiencing joy together. Doing things that everyone always had fun doing. Doing things that people always loved doing. And being together and just having peace. And just having peace with each other. And having one of those moments where, no matter what else happens in life, at that moment, everything is good. No matter how scary the world is or how much turmoil there is. And I want to reach for that. I want to see that. I want to have that clarity. Maybe I'll try to embrace that today. Maybe I'll try to embrace those things today. But I think, not making myself promise that I'll do those things, allows me to think a little more freely, without thinking that I'm just going to impulsively make myself do those things, regardless of the logical consequences, as though it's almost an act of faith, or a leap of faith. But I would like to try to do some of those things, actually. I've kind of got it in my head that those things are, not to be indulged in too much. That, that I need to shape myself to be this worker and to work every day and to work so much every day. I've really bought into that in the last few years, for good or better or for worse. But I feel like I have lost something from my soul, if you will. Something that was very robust in me in the past. And I feel like I'm constantly trying to reclaim that. You hear poems and songs about that. Like Billy Joel's River of Dreams, which is a great song. But anyway, I expect I'll be reaching out to you later, and maybe something good will come of this question in my relationship with my mom and everyone else I love. I wish there were more people that I was close to. I wish I had more friends. I wish I had a group of people that we did share a lot of sacred experiences together. And we've come close to that, like with the musicals that we did. It's a perfect example. I spent years of my life investing in these musicals that my family did, in an effort to help us all be happy. And I think other people involved in managing those musicals and those productions, they didn't see some of the real value in that, in the friendships that can come from that. And my example I always give is that every time we did a show, we had a completely new cast, and that always had something to do with trying to fill the audience. And who we casted was based on how many tickets we could sell a lot of the time. And I think we lost out because we had a different cast every time. And if you have the same cast in a company, you really have a powerful connection to those people. It's a beautiful, soulful connection, that's irreplaceable. It's the kind of friendship and community that, you when you get older in life, you want to look back and realize that you had, and you want to have that around you. And you want to have these shared memories and these cherished experiences with those people, and have those people around you as much as you can when you're older, because you just realize the value of that. And we don't have that in a lot of ways. And I feel like that's a mistake. I feel like that was a mistake on a lot of our parts. But I feel like I do have a lot of life left ahead of me. Maybe that's something I can change. It's something I'm certainly trying to nurture with you. But as I struggle to help the people around me be happy, particularly my mom, I see a real absence of those kind of friendships and those kind of connections. And maybe she had that when she was a child she had that with her family. I think that's what she would say. But since then, she hasn't had much of that. And today, I wonder if she asks herself that question and what she would do today if it was the last day of her life. I feel like what she would want to do is hug those kind of people and be with those kind of people and be with her family, because she used to have that connection with her family. But so many of her family have passed away that there's an absence there. I think that plays a big role in her loneliness and her sadness. And it's a real struggle for me to help her. Because, if you live life that way, not embracing the things that really matter, over time, that catches up with you. And sometimes it is too late. Maybe if it is the last day of a person's life, maybe it isn't too late. Maybe there even just one day of having a soulful connection with the people around you can matter enough. I hope it does.